Hi guys, this is our week 13 and 14 language arts, and because this is a double week, we're going to do an assignment this week, and then I believe next week, let me look real quick. Next week will also be a double week, and then you guys are going to have 2 weeks off. So because this is a double week, we're going to skip the dictations in here, okay, because that's just something we can let go. But I want you to take a look at the first dictation there and how they do the quotations, because I think that's really important. So first, Julian's going to ask Portia something. And so Julian speaks first. So we have the quotes around what Julian says, and then Julian asks Portia. But now Portia's going to respond. And when Portia responds, we start a new paragraph. Every time a new person speaks, we start a new paragraph. Tooth braces, she told him, stretching the sides of her mouth to give him a better view. And then he responds again, new paragraph. Holy cat, when you smile, it looks just like the front of a Buick, which is a car. So what 3 things must a sentence contain? And I hope you have your worksheets open. So I would advise you to print those out, actually. So if you haven't printed them out, stop right now, go print them, and come back. Okay, so we're on the first page, which is 43. What 3 things must a sentence contain in order to be complete? Complete sentences, in their simple form, always have 2 parts, a subject and a verb. Okay, and it actually has a footnote there on the bottom of the page. It says, check the footnote. A sentence must contain a subject, a predicate, or a verb, and communicate a complete thought. Okay, remember, subject's name, who or what the sentence is about. The complete subject is the whole group of it. So if we had, for example, in this example here, my brother hit the ball with the bat, the complete subject would be my brother. The actual noun is just brother. And then hit the ball with the bat is the predicate, the whole thing that happened. But hit is actually the verb. So you can have a complete subject, okay, and then just have one word that's the actual subject. And then you can have a complete predicate and just have one word that's the actual verb. All right? The simple subject then is simply the one noun or pronoun. So brother. Brother would be the simple subject. So here we've got Bubba and Andy went hunting this weekend. Well, Bubba and Andy is a compound subject. 2 things together, compound. Predicates tell or provide information about the subject. They describe what the subject did, what happened to it, or what the subject is. Predicates always include a verb. So my brother is the complete subject. Hit the ball with the bat is the predicate. And hit is the actual verb within the predicate. Okay? A compound predicate has 2 things that they did. So what if the brother hit the ball and ran to first base? Well, hit the ball and ran to first base is the predicate, but the compound verb is hit and ran. All right? And it's okay if that doesn't make complete sense. You're going to get this a lot more as you get older here in English. So you just want to start to understand it. Complete predicates are basically everything else in the sentence beside the complete subject. For example, my brother hit the ball and ran to first base. Complete predicate. Okay? So for each sentence, mark the following if they exist. Okay? It might be easier to perform one step on each sentence before moving on to the next. Okay? So this is what we're going to do. Okay? You got 3 sentences there that you're going to do this on. And I want you to try to get these correct. So what I want you to do right now, I'm going to tell you how to do them. You're going to go try them. And then I'm going to come and give you the answers, and you're going to make sure you understand them. Okay? So here's how you're going to do. You're going to go into the sentence, and you're going to circle the simple subjects. Okay? So what I want you to do right now is I want you to pause the video, and I want you to circle the simple subjects for the 3 sentences, okay? So go ahead and do that. Pause the video. Go into the 3 sentences. Rodney and Harriet drove down the beach and ate sandwiches. The beaver and the badger packed snow around the walls of their fort and filled the arsenal with snowballs, and my cousin sang loudly in the choir. And I want you to circle the simple subjects in all 3 of those, and then come back on, and I'm going to help you with the answers to that. Okay, so hopefully you are back. Okay, so you should have circled the simple subjects that you circled should have been Rodney, Harriet, beaver, badger, and cousin. So you should have 5 circles on your sentences. Okay? Now I want you to draw brackets, and you can see what brackets are there in number 2. You just draw one on one side and one on the other side of any of the complete subjects. Okay? So I'm going to help you with this one because it's a little tricky. I want you to pause it and try it, and then we're going to see if you got it right. Okay, so you should have put your brackets around the following: Rodney and Harriet. So you'd have one bracket around Rodney, and then you'd have Rodney and Harriet, and then you'd have the ending bracket. All right, you should have done the same thing with putting it before the, so it's around the beaver and the badger, closed bracket. And then you'd have brackets around the words my cousin. Those are the complete subject. All right. All right, now you're going to draw a squiggly underline under compound subjects. All right. So draw squiggly underlines under the compound subjects. Pause it. Try that. Okay. So you should have had a squiggly line under Rodney and Harriet, beaver and, you don't really need the there, but if you underline that too, it's okay. Beaver and the badger. Those should have the squiggly lines. Okay. Draw an arrow to the simple predicate. So you're just going to draw a down arrow to all your actual verbs, the actual word that's a verb. So pause it and try that. Okay, so you should have had an arrow to drove, and you should have had an arrow to the word ate, and you should have had arrow to the word packed, and you should have had an arrow to filled, and you should have had an arrow to sang. So drove and ate in the first sentence, packed and filled in the second sentence, and sang in the last sentence. Okay? Now, I want you to underline the complete predicate. Remember, the complete predicate is everything else. So this is actually going to be really easy. Pause that real quick. See if you can do it. Okay, so you should have underlined in the first sentence, drove to the beach and ate sandwiches. That's the entire predicate. In the second one, it would be packed snow around the walls of their fort and filled the arsenal with snowballs. And the third one would be sang loudly in the choir. All right, that is the complete predicate. Now it wants parentheses around the compound predicates. Okay, and I'm going to give you a clue. They didn't do that in the answers. They should have. So drove and ate would be a compound predicate. I don't know I guess you could put it around that whole thing, drove to the end of ate, and then packed and filled would be the other one. All right, but they didn't even put that on my answer key. All right, so see how you did on that. If you have any trouble and you want to ask me, go ahead. If you still have trouble, you could also ask your parents because they can watch this video with you and help to make sure you understand this. Don't worry if you don't have it completely. This is something you're going to practice many times in your language arts over the next few years as you go through middle school and high school, so you will figure it out. Okay, now we're going to read about the interview. Biographies are true stories about real people. This year, you're going to read quite a few biographies. How many of you guys have read Freedom Train or Helen Keller or the Wright brothers? Those were all biographies. A biography is more than just a list about a person's life. It highlights a person's life experiences. For this assignment, you will write a biography about someone you know personally. Choose someone who inspires you or whom you admire. Choose someone who is older, who has a wealth of life experiences, a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle, or a family friend. Also, it will be easier if you can conduct an interview in person or over the telephone. To start writing your biography, you will need to write questions to get to know more about the person. It is important to ask a lot of questions. Later, you can decide, and give me one more second here, I want to check something. Later, you can decide the information that you don't want to include and what you do want to include. So here are some questions that you could ask. They've already kind of helped you, so you could add some if you wanted to. So what you need to be thinking about is who could you interview? And I want you to try to pick an older person in your life who has a lot of experience that you could ask these questions to. Okay? You can do it on the phone or you can do it in person. This is going to be the only writing assignment this week, just this one, okay? So pick someone that you could interview. It could be a teacher, but you want it to be, if you don't have anybody else, you could use your mom or dad. Okay, but try not to do your mom or dad because you kind of know a lot about them already. Okay, so here are the questions. Thank the person. It says you ask the person these questions. You can add some or take some away. Then thank the person for his time, sort through the answers that you gathered, and then you're going to write a little one page about this person. I'd like it to be at least 3 paragraphs. So the first paragraph would just be an introduction where you say, I got to interview this person. Now, you don't have to make it a boring intro like that. You could just say, can you imagine living in Oregon? Like make it something sort of creative if you want to. But I want you to have an introduction. I want you to have a conclusion. And then I want you to have a middle paragraph that discusses everything about them. Now, the middle paragraph can be more than 1 paragraph. So if you're doing a really good job and you want to make it 3 paragraphs, you could. So then you'd have your intro, paragraph, 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 conclusion. All right. So think about what the most important things are about that person. Now, it tells you to write an outline. Okay. I think that would be helpful, but I'm not going to make you do that this time. Remember how we did that with an outline? An outline might say big A or big 1, introduction. And then the big 2 would be conclusion, or that would be the big 3. And the big 2 would be your body of your story. But I'm not going to make you do an introduction for this one because we're on break and I'm going to try to help you do this pretty easily. Okay, your final biography should talk about events in this person's life in chronological order, in the order that they happen. So create a rough timeline of this person's life to help you organize the paper. In fact, this timeline will help you with the assignment later this week, so it will be time well spent. Aim for 4 or 5 main sections that will later become paragraphs. So this one says 3 body paragraphs, an intro and a conclusion. I'm saying that if you only have 1, it's okay. 3 would be great. I want you to try to type this because I'm going to edit it and send it back to you and ask you to edit it. So see if you can type it because that'll make it easier for you when you do the edit. Okay? So then you're going to write your biography, and I'm still on page 44 here. You're going to write your biography on a separate sheet of paper. You want to make it interesting, so don't just write a list. I don't want to be, Joe was born in 1533. Then he went here. Then he went here. Then he went here. Then he died. Well, he won't be dead because you're doing the interview on him, right? But I want it to be interesting. Try to make it interesting. You can't add anything that isn't true because this is a biography. Biographies have to be truthful. But you can add similes and metaphors and personification where you pretend to be, you give a non-human thing, human characteristics. It said they might stay away from hyperboles, right? But you could probably try to include a hyperbole too. So you're going to try to write 4, this says 4 to 5 paragraphs. I'm saying 3 to 5. And you want to try to flow from one paragraph to the next. So you want to have an intro, and then you want to say, now I'm going to tell you about my person, and you flow. Okay? And then you're going to have a final story as well. Okay? All right. So now we're on week 14. So that's due by Saturday. Okay? Now week 14 is not going to have a writing assignment with it. So week 14, if you want to stop this video right now and come back, you can do that later. And actually, you know what? I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pause this right here and make this just week 13. So that way, if you don't get to week 14 yet, you can come back. Okay?